Welcome to Money Secrets with Bill and Mike.
I'm Bill Alexander.
And I'm Mike Tove. And today is the day of our very special guest. And to introduce them, please watch this video from Dear World.
Time is very precious to me. I don't know how much I have left, and I have some things that I would like to say. I'm fighting cancer. Everybody knows that. I rode on the plane up today with Mike Krzyzewski, my good friend and a wonderful coach, but people don't realize he's a 10 times better person than he is a coach. He's meant a lot to me in these last 5 or 6 months of my battle.
Jim Valvano and I became brothers, really, during the last 4 or 5 months of his life. He knew that he was dying of cancer. He was in Duke Hospital, and we spent a few nights every week together, and we had many moments. The very best moment, I think, was when he said, "Yeah, I'm going to die. I know I'm going to die, but I'm going to win." And I asked him, "What do you mean?" He said, "I want to beat cancer. After I die, when we finally beat cancer, I want to be there."
I look at where I am now, and I know what I want to do. What I would like to be able to do is to spend whatever time I have left and to give and maybe some hope to others. We are starting the Jimmy V Foundation for Cancer Research.
Do you remember the last thing he said to you?
You know, I do not remember the last thing. And the reason I don't, because I thought he would live forever. I was with him when he died. I never looked at my relationship with him as this is the last moment. I was always anticipating the next moment.
Don't give up. Don't ever give up. And that's what I'm going to try to do. Every minute that I have left, I will thank God for the day and the moment I have.
Welcome back. So, Bill, to introduce our very special guest, we are talking with the V Foundation for Cancer Research.
Oh, it's so important. And we're really happy to have Sherry Mazer with us this morning. And she is with the V Foundation. So we're so pleased that you're with us, because the V Foundation is such an important group in our community and across this nation and truly the world. And we want people to know about the V Foundation.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So let's talk about, first of all, obviously from the clip, this started with Jim Valvano and his fight against cancer back in the early 90s. In fact, I'm wearing a red tie in honor of Coach V. And, but tell us a little bit your understanding of how this came to be.
Sure. So Jim Valvano was an exceptional coach, an exceptional human being, and eventually employed by ESPN after his coaching career. And he and ESPN joined forces and decided to form the V Foundation for Cancer Research after Jim was diagnosed with cancer himself. So what most people don't realize is the evening of the ESPYs, when he got up and made this amazing, memorable speech.
It was remarkable.
It was. He was very, very sick, and he passed away just 6 or 7 weeks later. But at that event, he announced the formation of the V Foundation.
You know, it's amazing when you watch the video. He's helped onto stage, and then he just totally just transforms. I don't know how else to explain it. And he comes to life, and then it takes two. It was what, Dick Vitale and
Mike Krzyzewski.
It was Coach K that helped him off the stage. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, one of the most important speeches of last century, from my perspective. It was so important.
It is. It's so memorable, and ESPN continues to run it a couple of times every year, and people tune in, whether you've seen it for the first time or it's your 100th time, you still want to tune in and see what he has to say. It's so very moving.
Well, one of the most important things to me about the V Foundation, and one of the things that I tell all my clients when they're interested in making gifts to good causes, is to look at the administrative expenses of that cause, because it would be surprising to a lot of folks who give their money that in some instances the administrative expenses are very, very high. Tell us about the V Foundation.
Yes, sadly, you're right. You hope that when you're giving money to a charity or a good cause, that your donation is being put to good use, and the V Foundation absolutely does that. We have the highest ratings from GuideStar and from Charity Navigator, who evaluate charities to make sure that they're fiscally prudent and very transparent. We are very proud that 100% of our direct cash donations go to cancer research.
That is astounding. It truly is.
I know that I don't know of every charity out there, but V Foundation is the only one that I'm aware of that where 100% of your gift goes to actual cancer research. Right.
Yes, it's very unusual. We do that by having an endowment fund. So people say, what about your office? What about your salaries?
Right.
We have those things, but we have an endowment fund that was established many, many years ago and fully funded more than a dozen years ago, so that we are able to direct 100% to research. Yeah. So people can truly give to us with confidence and know where their dollars are going.
Now, you know, and I know how important this is. I've been touched by cancer in my father, my mother, my sisters, my cousin. I mean, I'm just almost waiting for it to be my turn. That's how scary to me it is. But there was some data, 1 in 3 men. So, and
1 in 2
women. So basically, if you are going out with a couple of your friends, look at the one on the right, look at the one on the left, one of you is going to have cancer. That's
right.
Scary.
That's a conversation we have in our office all the time. We're sitting around eating lunch, and we'll say, do you realize, you know, all of us 4 women, half of us are probably going to get cancer. It's
Right.
frightening.
Well, I don't know of any family that is not affected by cancer. Tell us more about how V Foundation, how you fund your causes in terms of cancer research.
Sure, it's actually very interesting. So we have a scientific advisory committee. These are the very, very best researchers, heads of cancer centers, physicians across the country. So for example, here locally at Duke and UNC, the heads of those cancer centers are actually on our scientific advisory committee. They are receiving proposals from the very best cancer centers across the country. So you need to be NIH designated by the National Institute of Health in order to participate in our competitive program. So we send out a call and we say we are selecting researchers for V-Scholar grants, and those are our young investigators, and translational grants. And those are the ones that are moving the research from the lab into the clinic where it can actually benefit a patient. So we have those 2 categories, and we solicit for proposals for those 2. So Duke, for example, will have an internal competition among all the very best researchers at Duke, and they'll review or send 1 for each of those 2 categories, 1 proposal. Then our scientific advisory committee sits down and they review all of the grant proposals that have come in. So they are really evaluating the best of the best against one another, and then selecting however many that we have the funds to be able to facilitate for that year.
Wow. Well, Sherry, you know, there are so many different kinds of cancer. Is there any focus on a particular type of cancer or family of cancers, I should say?
With the V Foundation, no, and that's actually a wonderful thing. We're funding the best of the best, regardless of where that takes you, what type of cancer that takes you to. In addition to that, many cancers and findings of cancers can translate to other sites. So, for example, you might be researching the BRCA gene for breast cancer, but that might lead to findings for something that might benefit children or pancreatic cancer. So there are many applications that go across cancer types. So we pride ourselves in not just being pigeonholed into one, because we can really take where the best research is taking us and do something with it.
Sherry, we're going to take a little break, and we'll be right back. Please stay tuned. Welcome back. So Sherry, this has been really great. Tell us a little bit more about how this comes together and so forth.
Well, let me be more
Yeah.
specific. I know that y'all have a goal right now in terms of what you're trying to do to really reach some of these matters. So tell us what the V Foundation is really doing right now in terms of raising money.
Sure. So we're actually in the midst of a 7-year campaign, and we went public with this campaign in December of 2016. And our goal is to raise $200 million in 20 years. And so we're about halfway there within the time period, but we are already
That's
at $123 million of our goal. And it's very exciting because we're looking to fund really cutting edge types of research. So we want to focus on big data and immunotherapy. And there's a lot of new and exciting technologies that are coming out that our researchers are working on, and we want to make sure that they have the funds to keep that research going.
Well, people should know that, I mean, this V Foundation is a wonderful cause. It's meaningful to every family. And there are lots of different reasons for giving, and one is just because it's a good thing to do. But there are also tax deductions. There are ways to make your gift more powerful for your family. For those folks who are taking required minimum distributions, one way to lower your tax is to take your required minimum distribution, if you don't need it, and give it to the V Foundation or to another charity that you're passionate about. But the fact of the matter is, if your custodian gives it directly to the charity, it actually reduces your taxes significantly more than if you take that minimum required distribution and then give it to charity yourself.
Right.
And take the charitable deduction. It's better for it not to go on the top of the line of your adjusted gross income, which is what happens if it goes directly from your custodian. And there are lots of other ways to make a difference with charitable remainder trust or charitable lead trust. Those are other legal ways you can do it. Or you can just have a bequest in your will or your trust at your death, which can be extraordinarily meaningful. If you have an estate tax issue, which our more wealthy families do, one way to significantly lower your estate tax is by giving a fairly large chunk to charity. And there are a lot of folks who would rather give their money to a charity, a good cause, like the V Foundation, rather than giving it to the government in taxes.
Of course.
But I suspect, correct me if I'm wrong, but you already have a lot of those programs in place to advise folks who want to come to you. And so talk to us from what your perspective is. What kinds of things do you tell folks when they call up and they say, how do I give?
We do, yes, and there are many, many ways to give, as you just mentioned. So from making a simple donation, you can call or go on the website, jimmyv.org, and donate $10, very easy on a donation form, to something that's a little bit more complex, like a charitable trust or a will or an estate. We do have staff on hand who are very well versed and can talk you through the pros and cons of what might work for you and your family. So I would encourage, if that's something that people are considering, that they contact the V Foundation and talk to somebody. We're a very small office. We still have real human beings who answer the phones and talk to people, and we would love to have a conversation with you.
So we're not going to have that computer punch one.
No,
You want this?
no. You're going to get a real person.
That's so important.
Yes.
Yeah, I know. It's gosh, I get so frustrated sometimes when I call those things and you have to talk to a computer and it says, if you want this, press 1, if you want this, press 2, if you want this, press 3, and it's like, wait, none of those were my choices.
Yes, and you're just pressing 0, 0, 0.
Right. Yeah. So tell us more. I mean, this is really about you and about the foundation. So just.
Sure. Well, I would encourage everyone who's making a gift, whether it's to the V Foundation or another charity, to do their homework, because as you said, there are wonderful organizations and there are some that are not so reputable. So do your homework, check GuideStar, check Charity Navigator, and just do a little bit of research on what the charity is doing with the money before you entrust your hard-earned dollars.
Well,
I'm sorry, what I was going to ask, what about doing more? I mean, I know that the V Foundation is involved in a lot of different events. You were telling me earlier that there's one out, well, it doesn't help any people on the East Coast, but out in California.
Sure. Yes, we have a wine celebration in California. I just returned from Florida. We have had an event there in Sarasota with Dick Vitale. We have a an event in Virginia called Virginia Vine. And for people who are here locally, we are going to have an inaugural Victory Ride for Cancer Research, and that will be kicking off in 2018 in the spring. So more to come. It's being developed as we speak, but very exciting, and that's going to benefit the 3 cancer centers in our area, Wake Forest, Duke, and UNC.
Now, the other thing is, and of course it's kind of taken a back seat a little bit, but shortly after Jim set up the V Foundation, well, a few years later, Kay Yao, who was also a coach at NC State, set up her own foundation because she passed with breast cancer. And am I correct that the Yao Foundation was acquired or merged with the V Foundation a few years ago?
So they are a standalone foundation. They are their own 501c3. However, the V Foundation serves as their grant-making arm. So they're raising the money, and the V Foundation Scientific Advisory Committee, who we spoke about earlier, is actually administering the very best grants on their behalf.
So in other words, donating to the V Foundation is fundamentally actually supporting too.
Yes, or donating to the KL Cancer Fund.
Same thing,
Yes,
yeah.
exactly. Yes.
They're both important.
They are very important. The KL Cancer Fund focuses on women's cancers.
Right.
So it's a wonderful organization as well.
Okay. Bill, what else?
Well, to me, in terms of every family should think about cancer research as being an important part of their gifting strategy. There are so many different ways of doing it, but a lot of folks haven't thought about it until or unless it affects their family. But truthfully, there's no family that's not affected by cancer.
You're
And-
right.
One of the things I want to do, we're going to take a break in a minute. I want to come back and I want to hear some of the success stories. Okay? So stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back. And Sherry, I want to hear some of the success stories. I want to hear where the work has made a difference in people's lives.
Sure. Well, one fact that I just heard recently, and I thought this was really interesting, and then we'll get to a specific example, but about a decade ago, it used to take 10 years or more to sequence a human genome, and now you can do that in minutes. So research has come a long way into giving us faster answers. But to speak to someone who many people are familiar with, Jamie Valvano, Jim's daughter. So Jim passed away, and in his speech he said, "It may not save my life, it may save my children's lives," and when he was speaking about forming the V Foundation. And Jamie contracted breast cancer, and it was later determined that she contracted that from a gene that she inherited from her father, the BRCA gene. So she firmly believes that she's alive because of cancer research. And when I've interviewed a few of the people who Jim had appointed to join our scientific advisory committee, who are actually his doctors, they had said, you know, if Jim had been alive today, we could have done more to prolong his life, and he may possibly have continued to live. So that just shows that if we continue to make these investments, that real people's lives are being saved and impacted.
Yeah.
Well, I know the V Foundation has given a significant number of millions of dollars. How is that translated into research dollars?
Well, we have funded very recently, we've taken on a new initiative, a greater initiative with pediatric research. And we see that pediatric lives, children's lives, are being saved at a higher rate now than they were before, which is heartwarming for any parent and more encouraging for any parent. Still, we feel like there's so much to do, because if you have one child who's going through a cancer diagnosis or one loved one that's going through the suffering of, you know, the treatments, we feel like that's too many and we need to do something.
When I was in graduate school, a friend of mine had a daughter who at less than 1 year was diagnosed with leukemia. And this was back in the 80s, so I don't know what happened because I finished graduate school and left, but I can't imagine that it was as good as it would have been if that same diagnosis had happened today. So much more available.
Yes.
Well, I know that research on cancer is not a 1 year type of thing. It takes many, many years. And I just wanted to give you the opportunity to at least tell us a little bit about how the V Foundation research funding has actually increased other funding for cancer research.
Sure. So we followed up with some of the researchers that we had funded over the years. And at that time, the V Foundation had awarded $100 million in research. And it turns out that more than the researchers told us that they had been able to increase that $100 million donation by turning it into $1 billion by receiving additional government funding and funding from other philanthropic organizations.
Basically 101.
Yes, yes. So
That's fabulous.
we're making very wise investments in the people, and they're going out and doing tremendous work.
Well, it also means that those key areas where you've invested your dollars are developing the things that people need to save their lives.
Yes, yes. So in theory, your $10 donation is not just a $10 donation. It's going on to multiply and multiply.
Yeah, that's incredible, because one of the things that, just from a pure financial standpoint, we talk about is a return on your money, a return on dollars. And most of the time when people give a dollar charitably, it's like, okay, well, I gave them $1. And it's $1 given, $1 spent. But in this case, it's not.
Yes, yes.
Well, I think it's really important for donors too to understand that $1 given to the V Foundation is wisely spent, because you have such a credible group of scientists who are actually picking the very best of the research that needs to be done to continue those areas. And I don't know of any better way to make a difference than to do it that way.
Yes.
So we're going to take a short break, and we're going to be right back and just kind of wrap it up with our money secret. So stay tuned. Welcome back. So we're going to wrap it up, as we always do, with a money secret. But I think the money part of the secret is you need money.
We need money for research.
Give to the V Foundation.
Yes.
Sherry, thank you so much for being
Thank
with us
you.
today.
But the secret, I want to come back to something that I think that is the real secret, and Jimmy V said it. He said that there are 3 things everybody should do. You want to do it, or do you want me to do it?
Laugh, think, and cry every day.
Because that's a heck of a day, right?
Yes, it is.
Yes. I'm Mike Tove with AIN Services. I can be reached at 800-363-2296.
And I'm Bill Alexander, the founding attorney of W.G. Alexander and Associates. We're attorneys who focus on estate planning, elder law, and asset protection planning. So give to the V Foundation.
And thanks for watching. Stay tuned next week for more Money Secrets with Bill and Mike. See you then.